Welcome everyone to the Strathroy-Caradoc Police Services Board on Tuesday, July 18th, 2023. Before we begin, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Okay. Seeing none, and I should note that Chair John Brennan is absent with notice, and Vice Chair Inika Hahn is joining us via Zoom, hence the reason why I'm sitting here at the chair's position today. Today we're fortunate to be joined by Sergeant Jason Cartwright and Detective Constable Jordan Shute to attend and provide a verbal report presentation on their mandate, initiatives, and projects undertaken since unit inception. So welcome, gentlemen, and we'll turn over and reminder to please turn on your microphone so that Inika can hear you also. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate us being invited this morning. In September of 2022, we were fortunate enough to implement a new unit under the Criminal Investigations Division branch. We call it the Street Crime Unit, or SCU. There's one detective constable who's assigned to that unit, and that's Jordan, sitting to my left here. Jordan and I have worked together for, I think, since he started with the police service. We work in uniform together, have a great working relationship, and he's a really hard-working police officer and a great guy, and he's a lot of fun to work with. So, although I know a lot of what he does, he's very passionate about it. He's got some speaking notes, and I know you read the board reports, and I'm sure that you see some of the highlights of his great work. So I'm just going to ask him to go through his speaking notes, and if you have any questions at all, we'd be more than happy to answer them. And we really enjoy this unit. It's been a it's really flourished, and it's really created a lot of proactive activity that has resulted in serious successes when it comes to apprehensions and arrests and fighting crime in our community. So, Jordan.
I'd like to say thank you for having me in this afternoon. Same with Sergeant Cartwright and Chief Campbell and Chief Cushman. I really appreciate it. Myself, along with the entire service, has been doing some fantastic work as of late. We're really producing a fantastic product. I do have some talking notes. I'd actually like to pass around some images to the board as I talk. Do you mind doing that, Jay? Thank you. I do have a few notes, but I'll just kind of dive right into it. The three images that are getting passed around. The first one, there's three images there. There's one of crack cocaine, another one of methamphetamine, and the third is going to be powder cocaine. I don't have an image of fentanyl. We do have large seizures of fentanyl, but I don't have one of those for you today. I'm sorry. As those go around, I just want to touch on the fact that Strathroy-Caradoc Police Service, the Street Crime Unit, we've made seizures of methamphetamine totaling up to 1.5 ounces, which is 42.5 grams. I'd like to break that down into the gram section because most purchases or drug transactions within this municipality are at the gram level. Users will buy 1 gram for roughly $100. In total, the street estimate value of the meth is about $4,200. The next one, seizure, is cocaine, which is 6.7 ounces, broken down into 191 grams. Most commonly, those are bought, again, $100 per gram. Sometimes they buy up to what's called a ball, or 1/8 of an ounce, 3.5 grams. Obviously, the bigger amount that you buy, you get a deal. Any commodity, you're getting deals the larger amount you buy. The seizure value for that is $19,000. The next one is fentanyl. That's 7.74 ounces, which is 219 grams. Fentanyl is actually broken down into a point, which is 1/10 of a gram. That's the most common amount for buyers, mainly because of the extreme potency of fentanyl. So breaking that down, 1/10 or a point is usually $30. So potentially that's 2,000 drug transactions that have been taken off the streets by Street Crime Unit. So 219 grams, valued around $65,000. So in total, we're just under $90,000 since the inception in September of 2022. So what is methamphetamine? It's a synthetic stimulant, which is made entirely of chemicals. There's no natural properties to it. It is a synthetic, and it's made from chemicals. It can be smoked, snorted, injected, or swallowed. It's very dangerous for users due to, causes mental health issues, unpredictability, and physical effects. It's manufactured in illegal labs. It can be large or small. As of yet, I haven't uncovered one being in Strathroy. However, there are some in London and surrounding jurisdictions. The labs are highly volatile and pose extreme dangers to not only the people who are using them, but citizens around them. Again, it's strictly chemicals. It's very volatile if they were to explode. The next thing is crack. Well, that's a form of cocaine. It's a stimulant. It can be generally smoked. It offers a short, intense high. Usually crack cocaine is trafficked by outlaw motorcycle gangs. Of note, that would be the Outlaws. Project Derailleur was a large-scale OPP project which had ties to Strathroy-Caradoc. There was an outlaw clubhouse which was raided on Parkhouse Drive as part of that Project Derailleur. Fentanyl was at one point a powerful opioid pain reliever. It can be injected, smoked, snorted, or ingested otherwise. Fentanyl users experience a quick rush of well-being or euphoria, followed by a period of calm lasting 1 to 2 hours. This is commonly referred to as being on the nod. I'm sure everyone has seen the news or different media outlets. It's that very tired, almost lethargic sleeping state. They're very awake, very alert. I'm sure, Matt, you've experienced that yourself. But that's commonly
What's going on?
Professional aspect, I'm sorry. It's 20 to 40 times more potent than heroin and 100 times more potent than morphine. A few grains is enough to kill you. Someone who's not a user exposed to fentanyl, just that small amount can prove to be fatal. It's odorless and tasteless. It can be mixed with other drugs such as heroin and cocaine. It is also being found in counterfeit pills that are made to look like prescription opioids. These are suspected to be a leading cause in overdoses in youth or adolescents because they're experimenting with pills. Unbeknownst to them, they're actually loaded with fentanyl or is purely fentanyl. Fentanyl is manufactured illegally throughout Canada and is readily available within the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc. It's lawful to possess the ingredients to produce fentanyl, but once it's actually made into fentanyl, it's a chemical compound, then it becomes illegal under the criminal code. It's manufactured predominantly by Asian gangs throughout Canada, but is also smuggled in to Canada via the United States with the assistance of cartels in Mexico. So it's a very multinational, transnational, North American issue. What are the risks to police officers? All drugs pose risk to first responders. Police are no different. The risk of exposure is high due to prolific use of injecting these drugs. Each one of those drugs that I mentioned can be injected. And obviously if someone's using a hypodermic needle, whatever they have, communicable disease can be transferred, or the officer or a first responder could suffer an overdose. I myself was subject to a dirty needle stick during a search. I was off work for 30 days due to the medicine required to prevent HIV and hepatitis infection. So it is something that's very serious and affects first responders. Drug problems. There is an opioid crisis in Canada. That's hard to deny. That is an issue that's very in vogue right now throughout Canada, and Strathroy-Caradoc is no different. The municipality is being targeted by drug traffickers from the Greater Toronto Area due to the rural nature, lack of police resources, and our proximity to London and easy access to the 402. There are GTA drug traffickers operating within Strathroy-Caradoc with ties to street gangs. They've established themselves, the street gangs are now establishing themselves outside of Toronto in less traditional areas. They're targeting smaller rural municipalities, including northern First Nations communities, which are drive-in remote or even fly-in remote communities. So Strathroy or smaller towns, they're being specifically targeted by drug traffickers. They're victimizing these smaller communities, which have historically not had these big city problems. However, those days are seemingly long over. The ripple effects of drugs are felt throughout the municipality. They're seen in property crime levels, violence, mental health calls, and visible quality of life complaints within Strathroy, Mount Bridges, and Melbourne. These drug traffickers bring along with them violence, guns, and human trafficking. Illegal firearms are easily obtained by 3D printing or purchasing a legal firearm that was smuggled in from the United States. Again, that's something that's in vogue with the province right now. 3D gun printing, which I can elaborate if you have any questions. Same with illegal firearms. It's very easy for people to smuggle firearms in from America into Canada. It's actually quite disturbing, the ease that that's happening. It's easy for drug traffickers to obtain firearms. For a couple $1,000s, you can actually buy a firearm similar to the ones that the police service carries, or even more high-powered firearms. So they're in town and they're making efforts to establish themselves, but have yet to gain a solid presence in town. I know from my experience that they are supplying the drugs in this community. I want to touch on some other aspects of my job as a detective in street crime unit. It's not solely drugs, that is a big portion. Recently, we've been involved in recovering stolen vehicles, which are subject to re-VIN or re-VINing or vehicle identification numbers. So what that is they get their hands on the VIN, which we're all familiar with on our vehicles. They take that information and they replace the VIN on a dash of a stolen vehicle. So by all outwards appearances, it appears to be a lawful vehicle. We recovered a 2019 Ford F-150, which was valued at approximately $40,000, and that was a joint project with the York Regional Police Service. Again, that's a very prolific issue throughout the province, and that's generally a Greater Toronto area problem, but it is filtering into smaller communities such as Strathroy. Again, the same re-VIN problem was again on a 2003 GMC pickup truck, which was recovered and valued at approximately $10,000. Again, we assisted with the recovery of a stolen ATV, which was actually uncovered by our traffic unit. That was valued at approximately $7,500. What the unit lacks in size makes up for in enthusiasm. Obviously, it takes a lot of hard work, dedication, and a skill set to tackle things on your own. I am assisted by our Criminal Investigation Division and our Uniform Division and the service as a whole. I wouldn't be able to do my job without the assistance of Chief Campbell and Brent Cushman here. They're really big supporters of what I do in that office there. Presently, it's just me. However, I've laid 73 charges, dealt with 261 occurrences, and submitted 573 reports since September 2022. I focus on drugs, guns, gangs, and street-level crimes such as auto theft and break-and-enters. Again, I'm subject to the chief's orders as well, so if there's something important that needs to be addressed within the community, I'm more than happy to jump on that as well. Obviously, I serve the people of Strathroy-Caradoc, so whatever I can do to help out is of the utmost importance to me. I have an emphasis on collecting intelligence as well in all facets of the criminal elements. I've been designated as an intelligence officer within the service. I've formed partnerships with the St. Thomas Police Service, the London Police Service, and Middlesex and Lambton OPP street crime units. There's back and forth help between all those services. Obviously, it's a drug trafficking and crime, property crime is occurring within neighboring municipalities and jurisdictions. So that partnership has been very key to success. The unit relies heavily on intelligence-based policing, such as confidential informants, Crime Stoppers tips, and surveillance of suspects. The need for informants cannot be understated. Informants are critical to police investigations and policing in a whole. Not only to drug investigations, but also to any criminal or provincial investigation. There's a need for to support them, and I think Chief Campbell would agree with that. We need to have the funds to fully support and collaborate with them. The officers require special training and qualifications in order to conduct fruitful investigations and obtain successful convictions. One of our key tools is search warrants, which are judicial authority to enter and search for evidence. Residents, cars, Again, I won't get too deep into authorities of a police officer, but again, that's one of our key tools. It's very important to successful investigations. Sometimes these search warrants can be very cumbersome and time-consuming, and that's in addition to the preceding investigation. So sometimes these can be very lengthy and drawn-out investigations. The street crime unit also requires technology for surveillance, such as video recording equipment and unmarked police vehicles. Presently, we rely on shared resources provided by provincial grants. These are not always guaranteed and would surely stymie our efforts if they weren't secured. Again, speaking to video recording and unmarked vehicles, they are very costly. It is something that is very important to an investigation. That's that evidence collection for those convictions. Same with unmarked vehicles. It'd be very challenging for me to watch bad guys if in a marked police car. It can be done, and I do it in times, but those unmarked vehicles and the technology and equipment's pretty paramount to having successful operations and investigations. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that the board has, and I'd like to turn it back over to Chief Campbell and Chief Cushman.
Thanks, Jordan. So he's certainly covered a fair array of topics and information there. If I could sort of tie some things together here, certainly as a police service, we saw a need and a real benefit to standing up a street crime unit. As Jordan has alluded to, he's developed some really strong partnerships with some of our regional partners, St. Thomas, London, OPP, or some that he named. And the collaboration that I see on a daily basis about the information sharing, because I think we can all understand and agree that certainly property-related crimes, drug-related crimes are really borderless crimes. They're happening here, they're happening in our neighboring jurisdictions. So it's paramount as investigators that we share that information, not only to help or aid our other agencies, but probably as important in a timely fashion, because stale information sometimes can get in the way of a successful investigation. Part of the mandate of this unit is what we refer to as proactive policing. We're trying to move away from reacting to crime, reacting to trends, and we're trying to get out in front of things. Jordan was picked because of his work ethic, his experience, and his dedication to really targeting and making life really, quite simply, unbearable for a lot of the criminal element in this community. I think if you were to have a chance to speak to any of them, either discreetly or on record, they would probably indicate that Detective Constable Shute is very engaged and enthusiastic in executing his duties. And at the end of the day, it certainly makes life uncomfortable for those who are engaging in criminal activity in our community. He has highlighted some of the areas that we've set as priorities. He highlighted Project Derailer, which was a joint investigation under the auspice of the Biker Enforcement Unit, but had a lot of really good results in executing search warrants, seizing drugs, and more importantly, seizing some of those weapons that were part of the cachet of the transactions. When we talk about how are we moving our service forward, one I've sort of highlighted is about identifying members who have that skill set, sort of that natural ability to sort of fall into this line of work and do really well at it. Some other areas is prioritizing enforcement against drug dealing and weapons investigations in this community. And a lot of it comes from our frontline members, and we have a very engaged and enthusiastic frontline uniform membership that works alongside the detective constable, but also provides a lot of information. He's highlighted the presence of informants, and that is something that, again, we've made a priority for our frontline members to not just be responders to calls, but to build relationships, not only with our community members who are reporting these crimes, but building relationships with those who sometimes are committing the crimes. And it does have a tremendous benefit in helping us solve crimes and identify trends in people who are responsible for events. And then the other area is certainly identifying the appropriate training for our members to ensure that we have appropriately trained officers with the skill set to be able to execute these investigations, being mindful of what their legislative authorities are so that we're not stepping on the line or over the line, but executing our investigations so that we are lawfully arresting and seizing property and exhibits, and ensuring that we're not creating bad case law as we sort of discover through this process. So those are just some summary comments I have, but again, we'd certainly invite and take on any questions from any of the board members.
Any questions, Matt?
Thank you. First of all, thanks for coming out and giving that information. We've all been pretty interested in the unit since it started, so getting a little bit more detail on what you guys do was very informative. Obviously, it sounds like you guys are pretty busy, almost 600 reports in 10 months. That's a lot of paperwork. I don't feel jealous about that at all. Wondering, kind of, my question is, where do you see this unit going short term, next year or two, or longer term, next 3 to 5 years? Kind of what are your goals and aspirations, and what can we do kind of to help that out?
When I was talking about the surveillance of the suspects there, it's a challenge for Strathroy because obviously we have to fill uniform and serve the citizens in that capacity. Typically, surveillance or a street crime unit consists of several officers. The idea would be to have ideally 3 to 4 members being able to surveil a bad guy at one time. I couldn't really speak to a time frame. I would love to have a partner tomorrow, or 2 or 3 more officers. Again, I think that'd be more of a discussion amongst the board and the chiefs here, but in order to continue the awesome work that we're doing, I think at least 1 partner or potentially 2 or 3 more officers would be extremely beneficial. And those are kind of standards set amongst other police services for those surveillance roles. Obviously, my reports are quite significant as well. Having a partner or other officers in that same unit with the same mindset, skills, and training would help kind of disperse that workload amongst other officers. Hopefully that answered some of your questions there.
Yep, that's perfect, thanks.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in for a minute. Member Hahn has a question, but since the audio isn't working, Deputy Clerk is going to read your question, Inika.
So it's a question to Jordan. She says, later in our meeting, we were talking about preventing auto theft grant program. You had referred to grants assisting crime. Will you be partnering potentially with other local partners on this grant? It appears to tie indirectly to your great work.
If we're successful with that grant, I do anticipate working with the OPP, London, St. Thomas, Almer. There's a lot of jurisdictions that are affected by the auto theft going on right now. Strathroy is no different. Obviously, they're targeting early 2000s GMCs and Chevys. I'm sure we're all familiar with either a friend or a neighbor who's been victimized by these people. I suspect that they're actually meeting the threshold of a street gang, which is 3 or more people organized together for the purposes of committing crime. Again, those thresholds really meet the provincial mandate for those grants and for that project. But again, we can't work alone. We have to work with the London City, OPP, St. Thomas, Almer, even Lambton to the west of us as well. So it'll be a multi-jurisdictional approach there.
If I may, Chair, just to through the chair to Member Hall and even Member Hahn, just to tie in a couple of responses to the last two questions. So, to Member Hall's question about where do we see the unit going, certainly resourcing the organization, which includes officers, is something that certainly I will continue to address with the board and find the right number of resources as far as members. But there's a couple of other areas, and we've sort of highlighted a little bit, enhancing our technology and use of technology as part of our surveillance gathering, part of our asset management as far as equipment, are areas that we will continue to look for and find the proper fit for whether it's technology or other assets that we can utilize in regards to these investigations, and not just adding bodies or members to fill in a roster spot. In regards to the grant applications, and I know that Jordan has talked a bit about this, we will continue to review and find the right grants to apply for. The province has been very engaged in pushing out grant applications for various projects. You'll see in this board there's two that are on there. The auto theft grant program, as well as the bail compliance and warrant apprehension. So there is a commitment from the province to make grant money available for police services to help fund and grow units such as ours to combat these types of crimes.
Thank you. Member Wiersma?
Yes, Jordan and Sergeant or Jason, great presentation, really very informative, certainly as a police board member. I'm kind of curious. I mean, it's a serious business, there's no question about that. Generally people look at Strathroy kind of like a sleepy little rural community in southern Ontario. Is there really that much of a problem? How do we convey that to the community to let them know this is a lot more serious, folks, than you might think? Okay, I don't know. It's kind of a question, comment.
Certainly through the chair to Member Wiersma. I'll provide a response to that question, and then I'm sure that either Jordan or Jason may have some follow-up comments. He has accurately depicted that we have challenges in this community with the ever-presence of drugs flowing into our community. I think we've done a fairly good job in accurately identifying who the main players are as far as being dealers, users, and those that are tied into both of those people. We want to make sure the community is well informed. We're not trying to alarm the community and demonstrating that there is no control. I think that it's quite the opposite. I think that we are doing a really good job both internally and with our partner agencies in the region, getting a very clear picture of what activities are going on in our communities. Drug investigations, weapon investigations, there's a couple of issues that I always find are fairly common in these investigations. You can go through an investigative process, and it may lead to a search warrant, and it may lead to arrests, and it may lead to seizures of illegal drugs or guns. What we often find is, once those articles are taken off the street, those parties are arrested and charged and sometimes held in custody, there's always someone who comes in to fill that void, who takes up the vacancy of that, for a lack of better terms, that market, and then starts to exploit and take advantage and provide that same product back out to communities. So that is always going to sort of occur. What we also find is we can put a lot of resources into these investigations. unfortunately, right now, there isn't a lot of consequences that we're seeing once a case has come to a conclusion, where there is a severe enough deterrent that is removing the, I guess, the economic benefit from those who are involved in drug and weapon and criminal activity. That's a much bigger issue than we as a police service or this board is able to conquer. That's more of a societal sort of perspective, but those are sort of our priorities from standing up a unit such as this. And I'll turn it over to either Jay or Jordan.
I was just going to make one comment in regards to the support that we feel from the community when we're, I'll give the example of executing search warrants, which I don't have the numbers on me, but the number of search warrants that we've executed in the last 18 months has increased exponentially with success. I go out on most of them. I usually stand in a supervisory capacity and have the opportunity to hear or speak to people in the community who are witnessing this happening. And it's always so positive. They appreciate it. You hear the comments, wow, it's about time, thanks guys. They really appreciate it. I think regardless of the outcome, to go on what the chief said in court, we don't work for the court, we work for the people in the community. When we put together the best prosecution that we possibly can, and then it's basically, we participate in it, but it's out of our hands in the end. So the community knows we're out there, they appreciate it, and I think the fact that we've been able to increase the number of executed warrants and enforcement, I think is noticed by community members.
Anything else? Okay, gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. I'm going to speak as mayor of the municipality, and I believe there are two main responsibilities. Unfortunately, one is collecting taxes, but I think the second one is protective services, and whether or not it's fire, or EMS, or police, I can tell you that the council of Strathroy-Caradoc and myself as mayor, we got your backs. And we really appreciate everything that you do, so thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation, and may have you come to council one day and make the same presentation. So thank you very much, gentlemen.
Yeah, wonderful, thank you.
Have a great day, thanks.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. We will move on to item 3, the adoption of the minutes from the meeting of June 20th. A motion that the minutes of June 20th, 2023 general meeting of the Strathroy-Caradoc Police Services Board be approved as written. Someone make a motion. Member Hall, seconded by Member Wiersma. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Move on to communications. We have 7 of them. Make sure I do this properly. So a motion to receive the communication, and if anyone wants to speak to them individually, you can. We have a motion to receive items 4.1 to 4.17. Member Hall, second by Member Wiersma. All in favor? Did anyone want to speak to any communication in particular? Okay, I think Inika would like to speak.
So Inika is asking about first one, the
Okay.
targeted communication strategy. Who is the MCM liaison?
Through the chair to Member Hahn. So the major case management liaison is Sergeant Cartwright Jason, who just left the room here. So he is our contact.
Is there any follow-up? Okay.
If I may, Chair, just a couple of quick comments. The 2 grants, I know that there has been some discussions occurring already within the organization about where we sit with both those grants and structuring who will be writing to those grants. And the 4.13, the changes to the mandatory blood testing, I'm only going to mention it, just only that Jordan mentioned it in his presentation. There's been a change where it reduces the amount of time, and I'll maybe let the deputy sort of just speak to this about the time frame for when someone has to provide a sample so that we know for our members when there's a accidental stick, I'll call it, from a needle.
Yeah, so, and I could be wrong on the exact days, but I believe it went from submitting a sample within 7 days to now it being 2 days. So it gets that process running quicker so that the member who's been stuck or been, had blood or saliva that could be contaminated, it gets the process running quicker so that the member can be treated quicker or they can be put at ease that there are no concerns that way.
Did Annika have a follow-up? Would you have anything, Matt? Okay. Just one thing, I'm glad that Member Hahn did reference 4.12, the Preventing Auto Theft Grant Program. I think that's an important one. Both myself and Member Hall sat through a presentation at the Police Board Conference in Niagara Falls where they talked about how rampant auto thefts are, and if you look on social media these days, you'll find there's a lot of activity in auto thefts and attempted auto thefts. So thank you.
She has one more.
Okay.
So the next one's 4.7 or 4.1.7. So Annika is asking, what is your process if you see a dog in a closed car?
Through the chair to Member Hahn, we actually unfortunately get a lot of calls this time of year in relation to animals left in cars, most commonly at some of our shopping centers, where pet owners will take their animals with them, run into a store, think that they're only going to be 5-10 minutes maybe at most, and again, maybe this is a reflection of just how engaged our community members are. They're pretty quick when they spot an animal, whether in distress or perhaps they're feeling that the animal might be in distress, giving us a call. A lot of times we will attend those calls, certainly have information available to us to help identify who the vehicle owner may be. We'll try to exercise some caution by having that person or the vehicle owner paged in the store. Certainly this correspondence outlines lawful executions that an officer can take to gain entry to a vehicle if an animal does appear to be in distress. And then it also outlines the reporting responsibilities we have to animal welfare, the provincial agency, if we take such action. So when this was received at the organization or at the service, we made this information available to all of our staff, most importantly our frontline uniform members, so that they are armed with the information that they need to, again, properly execute their duties to ensure that we are working within the lines of the law, but also offering protection to animals.
Thank you. Member Wiersma.
Yeah, Mark, back to 416, this thing on police interaction. I'm kind of curious. There's been a change in doing it, whatever the process is, right? This is the reason for the document in terms of force, in terms of the one I'm referring to?
Yeah, so I'm
curious, but I'm curious how this process happens. Like, the original document is there. Do you guys get input into these kinds of changes in terms of, is it good, is it bad? I mean, I'm assuming it's good, obviously, because I wouldn't be there.
Certainly. So through the chair to Member Wiersma, there's actually, I think I hear two questions there. I'll answer one, and then I'll defer to the actual workings of the changes to the deputy chief. So the first question I thought I heard was, do we have input? So this is a ministry-led initiative to change the use of force model in policing. So through the Solicitor General's office, they undertook to redefine and rework the use of force model in policing. Certainly, policing agencies, I know through the OACP, the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police, I always need to sort of use, instead of using the acronym, I need to spell it out. Rely on subject matter experts, so quite typically use of force trainers from various services, large and small, other experts, academia, to provide input, feedback on proposed changes, what is appropriate, what may not be appropriate. And again, that is all fed back into the ministry to help them develop or implement any changes that may be occurring in a working document such as a use of force. I'll now defer to the deputy if he has any additional comments.
Yeah, so this, all chiefs came out on Friday. I was off last week, so I haven't had a chance to review it all. I opened it this morning and it's quite a lengthy document. So I haven't briefed myself completely on all the changes. I knew that they were coming, so it's something that I was aware of. As the chief said, there has been input by subject matter experts, specifically OPP, Niagara, Toronto, OPC, Ontario Police College, instructors and staff, as well as academia from 3 different universities, I believe. Western, Ottawa, and there was a third one, I want to say it was Niagara, not McMaster, but the one in Niagara. So there will be changes to how we do the training in the fall. That's when we do our annual use of force training. We call it block training. So where we practice our defensive tactics and firearms training. And so before then, I'll make sure that I sit down with our 2 trainers, Sergeant Mark Thuss and Constable Derek Zaff, and make sure that they're up to speed on the changes so that when we do the training or when they do the training, they'll know any changes they need to address specifically.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Okay. Any other follow-up questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to 5, review of monthly police service reports. Have a motion that monthly reports 5.1 to 5.6 be received for information. Member Wiersma, second by Member Hall. All in favor? Carried. So here's Chief.
Thank you, Chair. I am going to, again, try to move through these very quickly. I feel like I've used up my word count already, so. On the activity report, just highlighting the increase in the federal statutes. Again, falls in line with what Detective Constable Shute has talked about with our activities on drug investigations. Total charges to date, 1,297. Trending just a little bit below where we were the previous couple of years, but still a very busy activities. On the CID, or the Criminal Investigation Report, couple of highlights just to pull out of this one. Bullet point number 3, our work with the Halton Region Police in regards to a break-and enter at Pope's Jewelries. You'll see in the last line there, there was some warrants executed in Halton Region. The accused for our incident was arrested along with another party, there are 2 accused. And seizure of some of the property that was involved in our break and enter here was seized. Bullet point number 4, quite proud to say, again through Sergeant Cartwright's leadership, a well-executed plan in regards to the Strathroy Pride and the Drag Queen Story event held just next door here at the public library. That was back on June 24th. Well-executed plan led to an event with no real issues and lots of positive comments and interactions from that. The last bullet point, reference here to the project from the Biker Enforcement Unit, where a number of warrants were executed on June 27th, including 3 in Strathroy-Caradoc, leading to arrests, charges, and seizure of property. If I skip over to the uniform crime reporting, the violations report, incident count totals. 2 areas I was going to highlight here for the board was 42 person crime incidents reported to year to date for 2023. That's a bit of a decline from where we were the last couple of years. That's a positive trend. And again, the drug offenses, 37 year to date so far, which again shows the upward incline in incidents that we are seeing in regards to drug investigations. Over on the community services and the mental health officer report, down in the media area, there's some examples of posts that Constable McIntyre has made. Some are incident-based, some are more community messaging. We are active with the Helmet Campaign, which is a program where our uniformed members, when they see a child wearing a bike helmet, there's a positive interaction with a coupon for, I believe it's an ice cream at one of the local businesses. Again, just that positive reinforcement. As well as there was a post, we have the automated license plate recognition systems, the ALPRS, currently on 5 of our vehicles, sorry, which has been a great acquisition and an effective tool using technology to locate suspended drivers, unlicensed drivers, currently on valid vehicles. It's just been a real effective tool. And then you'll see in the community events, Constable McIntyre completed the Mobile Community Response Enhancement Grant that was submitted June 30th, where hopefully we will get some funding for help support our MCERT unit. And then she was also instrumental in organizing and running in the Torch Run, which is the annual event we co-host with Middlesex OPP, and that's in support of our friends over at Community Living and the Special Olympics program. Overtime.
Chief, just so it doesn't lose its timeliness, I believe that Member Hahn has a question, so we'll get the Deputy Clerk to read just for the timeliness of the question.
So Inika is asking in the CID report, what is OPP BEU?
So through the chair to Member Hahn, so the Ontario Provincial Police have a biker enforcement unit, so BEU. It's a provincial team with members situated throughout the province. There is participation from both municipal police services and I believe the federal RCMP are somewhat involved in the biker enforcement unit. As an organization, we do not have a dedicated member to the unit. You can have either someone assigned or seconded to the unit. In our case, we utilize Constable Shute, who acts as a liaison and helps provide information as an intelligence officer.
Thank you for that, Chief. Back to you.
Thank you. In the overtime report, trending a little bit higher where we've been the last couple of years, but no areas of concern that I am reporting. On the lost hours in training, I'm just going to highlight there's been some training provided to some of our civilian members. We had a member over at the Ontario Police College for a 1-week course on the Canadian Police Information Center, or the CPIC training course, as well as we have 2 new part-time members who were being trained. And you'll see that we also have 2 full-time members who are acting as instructors for the orientation and ongoing training in the communication center. I'll just highlight quickly on the use of force, just the one, and again, it's the use of a taser or the conducted energy weapon, shown or demonstrated to bring a community member into compliance, safely apprehended, avoiding any serious injury either to the the community member or the police service board member. So I'll leave it at that unless there's any questions from the board.
Any questions? Okay. Did we do the budget update, Chief?
I will. Again, this is up till pay period 12, and it represents 46% of the year. Again, going through the different line items, the different expense areas, no areas of concern. You'll see at the time of the printing of this, there's a surplus of just over $500,000 in the operating side, and again, we're not anticipating any challenges. So,
thanks, Chief. Any questions?
It's good.
Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to inquiries or comments. Any inquiries? Member Hall.
Thanks. Just thanks again for having Sergeant Cartwright and Detective Constable Shute come out again. That was a good presentation. Continuing on that line, I'm wondering if next meeting, if it would be worth having Constable McIntyre do a presentation, especially I'm interested in the MCERT, getting a bit more information on that, if she would want to come in and kind of tell us a bit more about that program.
Through the chair to Member Hall, absolutely, I'm more than happy to bring in any members to provide further information to the board. So certainly at the board's request, you let me know who you'd like to see next, or I guess I'm hearing you'd like to hear from Constable McIntyre, and pending vacation times, we'll ensure that she's made available.
Thank you.
If I may suggest, I would probably have someone from Canadian Mental Health or one of our MCERT workers attend along with Constable McIntyre, so that you get a fulsome perspective.
Yeah, thank you. Whoever you feel would be of value would be excellent. Thanks.
Any other comments? Member Wiersma?
Just a kind of a curious one. With all the vehicles now having automatic license plate recognition, and I know it comes out in the report, but what would be interesting to hear, Mark, is how much of a difference it's made from the time of, fully implemented, which is now, right? We're not gonna do any more, right, with the cars? Is there gonna be more units being put on other ones? Where are we? Is this the limit? We're not gonna do any more.
Yeah, so through the chair to Member Wiersma, we have a uniform fleet of 8 marked cruisers, and we have licensed technology inventory to go on all 8 vehicles. So we're still waiting. We have 3 new vehicles. One is actually being kitted currently. We have 2 who I will say are in the queue to get fully kitted up, which will include the ALPR technology. So by that time, we will have 8 uniform vehicles on the streets with the technology. We're early in that sort of data collection of seeing increases in enforcement related to the use of that technology. I do know anecdotally that our members come back to the office and talk about all of the alerts they get. I'm going to say a majority of them are for expired license plates. That despite over a year of information sharing about the requirement for a vehicle owner to renew their plate, not necessarily go and buy a new sticker, but at least go online and renew their plate, I would say has been less than successful in that messaging being acted on by vehicle owners. But a majority of the hits, if I use that term, is what we are finding the technology is finding for us.
Thanks.
Deputy Chief?
Just to further up on the ALPRs with all the cars, the ALPR technology is within in-car cameras. So all of our fleet will have in-car cameras. So if they conduct a traffic stop, everything will be recorded on video. There's also a camera for the prisoner compartment in the rear. So if we have a prisoner and we're transporting them back to the station, there's video of that as well. So if they decide that they want to headbutt the screen for some reason, because sometimes people do that, then it's all recorded and captured. So, yeah.
Thank you. Just a comment on myself again, I'll also put on my mayoral hat with regards to the pride and the activities at the library. I want to, on behalf of the community, thank the entire police service. Use the term pride myself, but I felt a great deal of pride in the fact that the positive feedback we got from the police service. I can tell you again, I do go on social media a lot, but the feedback from the community was very positive, and to see the results of that, again, felt very proud. So on behalf of the community, thank you, Chief, thank you, Deputy Chief, but also I was a little remiss in not thanking Jay while he was here, but please pass along my sentiments to the service that you did our community proud that day. So thank you very much.
Sorry, just on behalf of the service members, thank you, Mayor, for those kind words. And I certainly will share those sentiments when I get back to the office.
Thank you. Okay, we're now going to go in camera. The board may move into a closed session to discuss a legal matter regarding a claim and a procedural matter to approve in-camera meeting minutes as permitted by section 239 of the Ontario Municipal Act, section 35(4) of the Police Services Act, and Council's procedure bylaw. I have a motion going to closed session. Member Hall, second by Member Wiersma. All in favor? Thank you. We need to ask you to. My apologies, right?
No,
again.
Thank you and welcome back. Report on our in-camera meeting. The board met in closed session to discuss a legal matter regarding a claim and a procedural matter to approve in-camera meeting minutes as permitted by Section 239 of the Ontario Municipal Act, Section 35(4) of the Police Services Act, and Council's procedure bylaw. With that, we'll have a motion to adjourn. Member Hall, second by Member Wiersma. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Inika, for joining.